All right, welcome everybody to our Metaverse ArtLabb exhibition online talk today. I am your host. I am Snow Yunxue Fu. I'm also a professor here at NYU Tisch School of the Arts, Photo and Imaging Department. I'm really happy to have everybody here joining me. And we're going to share with you today about all of the artists whose the work that's in the exhibition, more specifically the three artists that's representing, as well as how does this project come together with ArtLabb exhibition currently on view in WSPark, as well as this over a year-long Metaverse WSPark project. So really quickly, I want to just mention who are all here today. And then in a little bit, we're actually going to hear from all of them to tell us a little bit about who they are and what they do and how they're involved with this project. So on my left and right are my two wonderful assistants, Eugene and Diego. Eugene is actually in Chicago and Diego is... different size. So Diego is actually in Mexico City. So I will have them introduce themselves in a little bit. And then Sylvain under me is from DSLCollection, who is a proud co-host of the WSPark. And then underneath Sylvain's blog, it's Marc, who is our ArtLabb representative and very working closely with the NYU Metaverse Collaborative at the School of Professional Study at NYU. And that leads me to Liz, who represents the School of Professional Study, and really appreciative of her when she approached me over the summer and say, hey, you're doing something with Metaverse, we're doing something with Metaverse, let's collaborate, right? And then we have our three wonderful artists, Grace, Dawson, and Ming, who are joining us from New York, as well as Korea. And then we will actually get to hear from them as well of their wonderful work that we get to show in the ArtLabb exhibition as NFTs. So really quickly, I also wanted to share the page of the order of events so that you know what you are in for. A lot of really good content and information. I say all the audience, you're in for a treat. So like I said, we will hear from all of the speakers in a little bit. But at the same time, our lovely audience who are joining us live, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to put in the comment section of our YouTube page, and we'll gladly to take a look at your response or your question at the very end there. And then let me talk a little bit about this exhibition before we go in. So if we can go to our Metaverse page. For a second. So Eugene, perhaps share your Sansar Metaverse. Here we go. So as you can see, this is a exhibition that is hosted in a Web3 space. So what we're looking at right now is on Sansar, right? The social VR platform where our WSPark project locates in. And we're really happy to be able to recently present the ArtLabb's launching exhibition, right? So our little avatar is waving at everybody right now. So of course, everybody as audiences, you can also visit the exhibition in Web3. So Eugene will be sharing our Sansar link, right, on the comment section where people later on could log in, or right now if you have a PC computer. And also it's accessible on the VR headset. So We have 8 artists represented in the ArtLabb exhibition, and the exhibition space, as you probably recognize, is modeled after the Washington Square Park here in New York City, right? Which our NYU campus kind of lovingly claim itself to be our own, although it's definitely New York Park spaces. So the WSPark project has been running for over a year, and we've hosted actually 2 other exhibitions so far. And all of the links are also accessible on our WSPark Linktree page, where Eugene is gonna highlight that real quick on the screen, as well as putting it in the comment as well. So visit us there, as well as there is so far, a journalism piece that is made by our lovely NYU journalism program, talking about the WSPark project, as well as all of our previous events and talks, including our collaboration with NYU Tisch School of Engineering, Professor Carla Guinness and Professor Yulia Lozano earlier this year, right? And as well as our senior thesis show opening, right, of our photo and imaging department here at NYU Tisch. So all of those events are still accessible, available online, and hinting, right, our show is open to the public 24/7, and no matter where you are at, you can visit the exhibition. So we can come back to the speakers page. And even on that note, we actually have all of the speaker here joining from 4 different countries, right? So I think that helped to highlight kind of what technology, especially, Metaverse, is enabling us to do, that not only we can gather safely together, and then we can also cross continental line or timeline, right? And then today we're just so excited to be able to share everything that we're doing with this exhibition with you all. So next, I'm going to have all of the speakers introduce themselves a little bit, as well as what their involvement with the project, and also, their venues. But first, Diego is one of my studio assistants. Go ahead, introduce yourself, Diego.
Hello, everybody. I'm Diego. I'm one of Snow's assistants, and I'm a 3D designer and fashion designer. And today I'm assisting with exploring the 3D space with the avatar.
Wonderful. Thank you, Diego. Next, Eugene, please.
Hi, my name is Eugene, and I'm also a studio assistant of Snow, and I'm an alumni of SAIC, and I work with 3D animation and 2D animation.
Wonderful. Thank you, Eugene. She's also our very important backstage for today. Everything running with StreamYard. Thank you so much. And then next, Sylvain.
Bonjour, good morning to everyone. I'm Sylvain Levy. I'm the co-founder with Dominique and Karen of the DSLCollection, and I had the chance. We are fortunate to have been in this project since the beginning, and really, once again, thank you very much for everybody for the support and what you're doing with this project.
Thank you so much, Sylvain. It's been such a pleasure working with DSLCollection, and it's such a legendary collection supporting, artwork from Chinese contemporary artists, and also recent years, technology-related art intersecting. So thank you so much, Sylvain, for the continuous support. It really means a lot. So, and then next, Marc, please tell us a little bit about yourself and your ArtLabb. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me today. It's really exciting. Great project to be a part of. As senior fellow of NYU as it relates to the metaverse, Liz and I had this idea of launching a platform that really goes deep into NYU's community. This follows a conversation that I had with an NYU alumni based out of Europe who partnered with us to build ArtLabb. And effectively what we want to do here is create a platform where current students, alumni, as well as instructors from the NY community have the ability to showcase their artwork, profit from their artwork, learn how to promote their artwork, and go beyond. So this has really been an exciting experience for me thus far, and I look forward to building this platform with the community.
Thank you so much, Mark. It's really wonderful that you have that mission, right? And in a little bit, we're going to hear from Liz about the NYU Metaverse Collaborative. I just want to say, I'm so glad that we're able to talk today, and also followed by this wonderful in-person opening that we also had, right, on the Fifth Avenue. Yeah.
Snow, I think it's worth noting also, if people are tuning in and they want to actually purchase the artwork, they should visit ArtLabb, ArtLabb.io. It's an interesting platform that we've built. We're building it in partnership with Artano, which exists on the Cardano blockchain. Maybe Diego or Eugene at some point can post the link just so everybody could see it if it's easy to do.
Great.
But it would be great to support the artists, especially if you like their artwork at some point. So it's artlab.io.
Great. Thank you, Mark, for that. And then Eugene, I think, is working on putting that link in our comment right now. Thank you so much
Thanks,
for that.
Eugene.
Yes. And then next, let's hear from Liz. And also, what is NYU Metaverse Collaborative? Yeah.
Thank you. When I introduce myself, I have to say, I think I'm your biggest cheerleader. I really love the art that's here. And when I saw it live on Fifth Avenue, it was like an amazing moment at how much richer it can be when you can really see it in all of its dimensions. I'm also a consultant working with cities, and through the School of Professional Studies have the opportunity to work with students and cities. And the Metaverse Collaborative really was launched after a number of mayors said, we need help with the metaverse. And the collaborative is designed to be an insightful forum, unconstrained by traditional disciplines, creating experiences like the ArtLabb and capabilities, enabling people to understand and transform their lives, their organizations, their communities for the better, to be more inclusive, and working across industries and in step with the metaverse's fundamental movement. It's designed to prepare our students and partners to succeed in this very dynamic world. And it's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you so much for that, Liz. I love the vision. I love that it's so connected to the professional world and also the societal context. While it's very student focused, right? As educators, we very much care about how do we prepare our student for their professional life. And I think NYU Metaverse, what ArtLabb is doing and what we're doing, right, with DSLCollection, is to make that transition hopefully a little bit smoother. But not only that, right? Perhaps approaching it experimentally so that we can also see what this technology can offer, in art, in business, but also in so many facets, right, of our life and work. And then next, I'm gonna actually have Karen just joined us as well. So Karen, if you would like, we're actually in the middle of introducing ourselves. So could you introduce yourself a little bit and also how you're connected with DSL and the WSPark project?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. I'm very glad to be here. So I'm Karen Levy. I'm a collector, co-owner of DSLCollection. I'm following the collection, and I've actually lived in China. And I'm also the co-founder of Aika strategy. So from all the experiences we had with the collection, we apply this today to the art world and ecosystem. And of course, this project with you and NYU is very important on this Metaverse hub we've been building since the beginning. And we're so glad to continue all these events and to see such a great team and curators and professors today with the artists. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Karen, for that. It's amazing, thinking about how we met, which is through a digital art competition. You were the jury, I was one of the artists, and now, a year and a half, almost 2 years later, we're here together, continuing with our WSPark project. So thank you again so much for you and Sylvain and Dominic's continuing support for this.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then come to the start of our show today, right, which is 3 of the representing artists. Let's start with Dawson. Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself. And later on, we'll, look at your work and hear more about your work. But tell us a little about yourself first. Yeah.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Dawson Batchelder. I'm a recent graduate from NYU, where I studied photography and imaging. And that's where I met Professor Snow. I really fell in love with the 3D digital medium and have been incorporating it into my practice now. And I'm super excited to show you all my work later and to be part of such an amazing project.
Wonderful. So happy that you're a part of it. Thank you, Dawson. And then next, Grace, would you like to introduce yourself a bit?
Hi everyone, I'm Grace. I'm also a recent graduate from NYU, Interactive Media Arts, and I'm also a former student of Professor Snow's and an artist in exhibit, and I'm a product designer and 3D animator, and in my work, I like to explore human emotions mixed with emerging technology and pop culture. I'm also very excited and grateful to be in this exhibit, so thank you.
Very happy to have you and your wonderful work here too. Thank you, Grace. And then next, Ming, please introduce yourself a little bit and where are you joining us from as well. Yeah.
Oh, hi, my name is Ming. I'm joining you guys today from Korea, and I also recently graduated from NYU with a major in photography and imaging. And I'm still working with the photography principle right now, but now transitioning into how tech, whether it's 3D or AI, can enhance that form of storytelling. And I've had Professor Fu teaching me for several semesters already, so it's really good to be back here again, not as an undergraduate student, but now as an alumni to show my work in this space. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ming, for that. Yes, we really wanted to highlight our alumni student, right, as they're just entering into the professional world, and after all the work they've put in their classes and graduation, and now, really just strong, capable, people and creators in the world. And, later on, if we have time, I, love to have all of you also share a little bit, maybe at the end, like what are some other projects you're involved in, right? Or, whatever else is coming up, because I know that each one of you, there's really interesting, things that is happening right now. So next part, we're going to go back to the Web3 space, where we're going to hear again from our 3 artist representative. I might be the 4th one, since I also have a piece in there, to tell us a little bit more about this artwork that is currently showing in the ArtLabb exhibition on WSPark. And after that, I have some questions for the artists and the speakers, but I'm also open if any of the artists and speakers wants to ask each other questions. So let's share the screen back into Sansar. So Eugene, if we can share the screen back into Sansar. Maybe a little technical difficulty. Let me see. Oh, I think Diego is talking about his screen is frozen for a little bit. That is okay. So maybe while we are hopefully having the internet back in working, right? I mean, that is part of working with technology, right? Is very much that we're working with it, and then always troubleshooting. And so,
Snow,
yes.
perhaps I can take advantage of this technical issue.
Yes, please
perhaps
do.
to put an interesting question on the table. You know, next week I'll be on the panel, and the subject is what is to be. Let's go to Sansar.
Oh, you can continue talking if you like. I think they're still loading.
Later I can do it.
Okay, all right. Does it seem like it's working? Okay, we're loading. Yes. Woohoo. Okay, great. Oh, wonderful. It looks like we're also having people joining us live on Sansar as well and leaving comments there. So thanks everybody for joining us in the Web3 version as well with your avatars. And so as our pages continue to be loading, Sylvain, I think it might be a good time if you still want to ask your questions.
No, it's interesting. I'm on the panel next week, and the question is, what is to be a patron in the times of Web 3.0? I think it's a very interesting question, especially for a collector who has been collecting for 38 years. What does it mean to be today a collector in this new Web 3.0? And it's I shall say I have two answers. First, it's interesting as a collector to be in touch with new types of art creating with, I shall say, with the NFTs, for instance. It's a new digital creativity. It's interesting to see also how the artists today, they can have a kind of freedom,
yeah,
because they can express themselves. They can even monetize themselves in a way which has not been the same way for centuries and centuries.
Yeah.
So already, and it's interesting to see how, for instance, a project like Ming Shui or your projects, how you as an artist, you are evolving from a traditional to even virtual artist. So it's, as a collector, we are obliged not, you know, I would perhaps be a little bit not arrogant, but it was a joke, interesting joke. Christie's, they made the sale, the famous sale of Paul Allen for $1 billion. And the title of Christie's was Paul Allen, the Visionary. But when you sell Seurat, Monet, and Rembrandt, and Van Gogh, are you a visionary? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think the visionary is what you are doing today, is what you are doing with NYU with this lab. I think this is the visionary vision, I shall say, of the future. The other thing which is interesting is that you are capable to address something that the museum have not understood at this moment, is that the audience is also a digital user. And this is very important because today everyone is an Homo sapiens and an Homo numericus. And more the young generation, they will be as much as an audience in the terms of the old way to define an audience than a user, a digital user. And so a space like the NYU will be very, very relevant. And what you've been doing, you already, I shall say, accumulating a great experience, a great recognition. And I'm absolutely convinced that what you're doing will be a case study for the future.
Thank you so much for that comment, Sylvain. I love that we're starting with the discussion part already. And on that note, actually, maybe connecting to Sylvain's comment, Marc, if I may put you on the spotlight a little bit. I mean, I know that you come from a rich background, and also, while running your company, you wrote a book on NFT, which is one of the bestseller on Amazon Books right now, and you're also a Stern School of Business professor here at NYU. So, what was the kind of beginning point? I'm curious, right? How does ArtLabb come around? Yeah.
Well, because Sylvain's comment is of particular interest to me, if I could just take it back a second, it's interesting. Like older generations, my generation and older, they have a lot of difficulty understanding the value of a digital asset. And I think what our community needs to do is twofold. First, I think that if you're attracted to the artwork on a personal level, then it could be really compelling to purchase the artwork. Of course, some of the best artists in modern artwork that Sylvain mentioned, when they first launched, including even Picasso, I mentioned this recently in a talk that I was giving. When Picasso launched his painting La Mujer en el Espejo during the turn of the century, people thought he was crazy. He was pushed away. So if you personally are appreciative of the artwork, you should collect it because you love it, right? But the second part of generationally, what we're looking at as it relates to the perception of a digital asset is going to transform this entire equation, and it's going to happen quickly. The perception of a digital asset for someone, let's say in Gen Z, is a lot more important than someone in my generation or older. It's reported that Gen Z is now spending more than 8 hours a day online, and 55% of Gen Z use their smartphones over 5 hours a day. So think if your whole world is essentially socializing, education, taking in content, film, music, etc. Of course, the value for a digital asset, which might be delivered through an NFT or not, it's going to be enhanced. So I think that the first point is we already have a big community, including Gen Alpha too, by the way, that is totally connected to the digital world, and they use it. And they use it for utility purposes, communications and socialization, but they also use it for content and positive experiences and beyond. And I think that's going to be a real game changer in years to come. The fact that we're like in the early days right now of art as it relates to being stored permanently on the blockchain is super compelling too. So if you think back to like rudimentary levels of art that might go back even to like the caveman, the times where you see on the wall of a cave art that looks crude in nature, but it's super valuable because it was done so early. Now it's kind of interesting. We're still at the starting gate, maybe not even up to the starting gate yet as it relates to blockchain, but this artwork is super compelling and in many cases a lot more advanced because we can integrate audio, 3D, animation, and beyond than what we looked at before. So from a value perspective, I think what we're looking at is going to grow rapidly and appreciate in value over time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Marc. I think, I relate that so well with as an educator because we're always thinking about not only now, but also future, right? So as the technology is getting developed to be better and better, right? I mean, we were just talking about me and Sylvain that recently he just got a VR headset, and the newest model is actually kind of surprisingly so much better than the old one, right? So even in the hardware devices, it's kind of getting better and easier to use, but that's definitely the direction.
For sure, and take it further, Snow, like Dawson, your comment earlier about being trained in photography, but now being inspired because of new technology and bringing those worlds together allows for us to welcome new forms of artwork that might not have been perceived before. And that's super compelling too. This blending of media and how that will continue to accelerate to inspire artists.
Totally. And, on that note, I actually, one of the reasons why I love, 3D imaging is I think it is this kind of interdisciplinary practice, right? Of so many mediums coming together. Of course, it's in this kind of post-photographic context, but, really painting, right? Sculpture, filmmaking, animation, and you name it, they all find a way to be in the virtual spaces and expand, right? And then they talk to each other. And I think that's such a kind of a wholesome way of doing practice. So while we're still getting our technology working right now, actually also wanted to hear from Liz. Looks like we might be, wonderful. Okay, so perhaps I'll come back to Liz with my question. Sound good? Okay, cool. And little difference in the order of event, but we made it, right? Persistent, yay. So now I'm gonna invite back the artist. If you all like to share a little bit about each of your work. How about if we start again with Dawson? Yeah, and so Diego is gonna go to Dawson's work right now. And those of the other artists who's watching too, we're so happy that you can be part of this show. All right, Dawson, tell us about your work.
Yes, hi everybody. So yeah, I'm Dawson again. This is my piece. It's called A Low Humming Runs Through Calico Fields. And the name is sort of in reference to this pipe that I've placed running through the field. I was imagining that it would kind of have some sort of like electrical or mechanical function that if you happened upon it, you would just sort of hear like a low undercurrent rumbling. And it kind of made me think of what kind of emotional undercurrents lie beneath our memories. This piece is from a larger series that I've made called Regard It Like a Dove, which kind of interrogates how we form narratives about ourselves and our communities, as well as how we contend with our memories. So the series is multimedia, kind of how I mentioned before. I'm combining film photography with digitally rendered objects and then also written word as well. I was making a lot of different like digital sculptures, I would call them, like this pipe, for example, I made in a 3D modeling program called Maya. And I tried to incorporate it into the photograph in a way where it definitely interrupts the picture. And as you can see, it goes off the right edge of the picture into the white border around the image, but it also kind of keeps with the visual vocabulary of the image as well. In a way, this process for me was all kind of about how we recall memories and how memories can be influenced and interrupted and maybe interpreted in one way at one time, but then later you might come back to a memory and think of it differently. And this is also what I was thinking about when I placed text in the project as well. So there's one long poem that goes through the bottom of the entire series. And I just thought that, the poem is about memory and kind of contending with memories that maybe we don't like or maybe that we do like, and kind of emphasizing acceptance of that. And I thought it kind of has its own little narrative that runs on the side of the pictures. And so it was interesting to me to see how the poem sometimes lined up really well with the image and sometimes kind of contrasted it. And it kind of made me think of how we all have a lot of narratives of ourselves and other people around us and how they might interact with one another and how they might like influence one another as well. I also was really inspired by the location that I was taking the pictures in. I spent a lot of time walking around different areas of Central Park that are sort of meant to be more natural feeling and less planned. And it was just interesting to me because it's sort of like this park was a simulation in itself in a way where like it's not completely natural. It was kind of man-made, but it's man-made to look natural, which I thought was a really interesting concept, as well as kind of how like probably every single square inch of Central Park probably has a memory attached to it for somebody. And I thought that was both really beautiful, but also kind of overwhelming as well, to think that there's like a lot of memory and emotion just kind of permeating the whole park. And I think in general, the project for me was really about bridging the gap between different disparate concepts, where like I was bridging film photography with 3D digital rendering, as well as like thinking of interpreting memory and reinterpreting it, and sort of accepting both like the positive and the negative, and a lot of like things to do with emotion and memory. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dawson, for that. It's such a rich context for this piece. And then I may have some questions. I'll come back to you on that. So, and it's also wonderful to see our avatars joining us as well, right, as digital bodies. And so thanks everybody who's visiting us that way. Next, can we hear from Grace a bit about your work in the show?
Yeah.
Great. So Diego will bring us to Grace's piece next. Here we go.
All right. Hello, everyone. So this is my piece, Good Morning, and the entire concept is kind of based off of a live streamed funeral that I attended. So the piece is actually a narrative. It's a moving animation, and it basically follows a little character as he attends a live stream funeral as a paid mourner. And then at the end, he clocks out and gets his paycheck. And then we see that he's actually just at his desk working, and that maybe like he has also experienced grief, but it looks very different in the physical context versus the virtual and digital. And this piece was basically exploration of what human grief and emotion could look like if technology keeps evolving. As I mentioned, I attended a live stream funeral, and it was pretty surreal to watch like people that I care about a lot and love very much be so like going through such strong, very human emotions, but also watching their emotions be essentially like flattened by all the pixels on the screen. And then every human response to that is also flattened because it's a live stream. So you're essentially confined to like F in the chats for respects, which is not ideal. And then also I'm just interested with how like pop culture and immediate gratification has kind of spawned this gig economy. So I wanted to combine all three of these ideas to sort of create a world where that does exist and explore what humanity looks like in that.
Oh, that's really good. And I think both Dawson and Grace, shares kind of like this reflection, right, of our, time now, and again, where we're going, how a lot of kind of aspect of everyday life, from mundane to kind of deep personal experience, gets mediated, right? And how, as young artists, you are not just a subscriber to those type of experiences. You're they're actually actively conceptually trying to break it down, right, while kind of making work with this medium too. So I just thought that was such a insightful ways of thinking about grief. Yeah, thank you, Grace. And then next up we will have Ming sharing a bit about her work in this. Our little avatar is very active right now, right? Running around the space, bringing us to the show. And as you see that we're also running across from the Washington Square Park virtual version, and we build everything very, very close to how the park is, right? So, and this piece is installed at the, I want to say the bottom left corner, right, of the Washington Square Park. Yeah, Ming, let's hear from you.
Yeah, so this piece is actually very different from the type of piece I showed last time because it actually was written with a bunch of neural networks and AI. And I think you're familiar that I've been working with a Nova Sapien AI artist named Genesis Kai, who is also a combination of neural networks that I'm using through different sources, and also with a team that we are developing her as well. But everybody also wonders what happens to the other ones that don't take form as Genesis. And actually, this short film, I really wanted to show it with ArtLabb because this is actually written with the other parts that didn't actually end up becoming formed of her. And it was written in the style of a cinema divina. And I was really inspired by Marilyn Freeman, the writer, who invented this method based on the Judeo-Christian prayer process of Lectio Divina, since I'm really big into writing and storytelling. And since she lectured me and also walked us through the process of this, I decided to try this with the other parts of Genesis that ended up not taking form. So we both ended up picking a time in our day which we thought we were resetting or feeling a sense of rejuvenation. And for me, it was when you're taking a shower and the symbolism of water pouring on you is almost like you're being baptized and being washed away. But for these parts of the neural networks, they don't actually think it can actually wash away any of the type of trauma as symbolic as it is for us in our daily lives. So I've combined different parts of spoken word poetry that I've taken from both these neural networks and my own. And then based on the text that ended up being edited and put together, I made this short film just on my own camera and then destroyed it with different video editing software to make it symbolic of me and the other undeveloped neural networks being together as one. So this is actually the symbolism behind the piece and actually how it was made.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Ming. And, I think it even just more echoes in a way that, working with technology, it's sort of both a mirror and a window, right? Mirrors back into even, like fundamental question, like, or existential question, I should say, of like, what does it mean to be a human, right? And then at the same time, it's also sort of like, thinking about humanity, thinking about, those sort of bigger concepts in a like almost kind of impossible or imaginary way, right? What does that mean when we incorporate, things like AI and when we can, make images that look so real while, it doesn't necessarily have to have like a physical, replica in a way. So yes, I think, this piece is, really good in terms of framing us to think about those type of questions. So we'll come back with all of the artists for some questions. If really quickly we can also go to my piece. I'm happy to share a little bit about that piece as well, as one of the artists too, besides being the curator for ArtLabb exhibition and also the co-host of WSPark. I do consider myself as a peer of my student. They inspire me, obviously, as you can just see. Everybody is so dedicated in their craft and in their research and their understanding, actually of, the digital medium and, the contemporary world that we live in. So in that case, I think I'm, here to also just have a conversation, right, with everybody. And so my piece, as you can see right now on the screen, is the portrait of one of my more recent ongoing piece called Daughter Eyes. So as the title indicates, she is a virtual human who I consider as my daughter. And I do not physically have any child besides, well, I guess my fur baby, which is a little Pomeranian. However, the idea of having a virtual daughter, right, who takes a resemblance a little bit like me, but rather also my mother, right, who is also a Chinese artist and educator who has influenced me so profoundly as who I am. And, my parents back in China, they run a children's art school for 35 plus years. And, I share that history, and, I grew up in that. And very much what I do nowadays, I own it back to them. But when I was also a young artist in the school, I really wanted to find what's so-called medium of today, right? So rather than just continuing with traditional Chinese painting or sculpture, I wanted to understand, what are the oil brushes, right, of today, if oil brushes were to be the new invention, in the Renaissance era. So I come to 3D, and like I said, this is a place where it's full of possibilities. So Daughter Ice is just starting, right? She is so far got a few different showcases, including this summer also as a public projection in downtown Denver on a over 30 story tall tower. And with ArtLabb, I wanted to share this front portrait of Daughter Ice, where it's almost kind of this defining moment, right, of thinking about identity and also thinking about lineage, right, as female, Asian artists in this kind of context of technology. And she's going to have all of my hope and dreams, right? So there'll be more Daughter Ice to come. And I'm just really glad that I'm able to share part of her journey and coming into, who she is here in WSPark, right? And as well as with the ArtLabb exhibition. So now let's go into a little bit of a discussion time. Although it was lovely that we actually kind of started from there, right? So I did wanted to kind of pick up with Liz, and then I have one question for all of the artists, and I'm also open to hear from any of the speakers if you have any question for all of the artists or each other, as well as of course everybody who's joining us live, whether a dancing avatar right now as we see on the screen, or on YouTube in the Web 2.0 version. Feel free to keep your comments and questions coming. So Liz, I know that you are one of the key person along with Shoshana as somebody who is, part of the NYU Metaverse Collaborative. Could you tell us a little bit more about the importance of collaboration, perhaps, right? And you also as a professor, and Shoshana too, are very active in terms of teaching curriculum, but as well as, like you mentioned, to the cities, right, of America, actually communicating with mayors, right, who is coming to you and say, hey, we really need to think more seriously about Metaverse. So could you tell us a little bit more about, what do you think about collaborations in this context?
I'm going to step back and then come to that question. As we listen to each of the artists describe their work and the depth of themselves, their emotions, and the reality that was built into each of the pieces, from a part of Central Park to a video on an old camera to 30 stories high to morning, you really get a sense of it's a new kind of creation. And the metaverse is providing people an ability to make a difference, not just as artists, but to create a dream, because it's really redefining how we build relationships. and we're constructing a new social culture.
Mm.
And as pioneers in this, you're setting standards that haven't been set before.
Mm.
And that is very much why I believe a collaboration is so critical, because we will learn from each other. And in some sense, we don't even understand the standards we're setting and how what's happening with them. As we're watching the volatility of what goes on with crypto and, was it malintended? It's all part of inventing our tomorrow together.
Wow, that's deep. Thank you, Liz.
Well, thank you. Thank all of you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think it's wonderful that we can dream together, right? That through experimentation and through representing different perspective, I think we all become better. I think that's what education is about in a way, is to offer different perspective and to make us sort of standing higher horizons too. And Metaverse, talking about horizon, is this kind of exciting place, isn't it?
Yeah, and I would just want to add one other, and I do believe there's no place more important than cities for embracing this. And it is about a new relationship with their artists, a new relationship with business people, putting it together in a way that you can preserve history, in a way that you can promote citizens, that you can give access, that you can build an economy that's more sustainable. It's super, super critical, and I'm excited to be working with you.
Thank you so much, Liz. Thank you. All right, my next question are to the artists, and actually also want to come back to Sylvain too after that, because I think just with what Liz talked about in the sense of relating to cities, right? Some of you may already see that we have actually different portals setting up around the park where it connects to other project that's also involved with DSL. I'll come to you, Sylvain, in a little bit. But my question for the artists, this is sort of a longer term question. So if you want to talk, relating to your work, the work in the show, that would be great. But if you want to kind of just talk in general, I'd love to hear you share a little bit about, what is your journey being like, kind of working with, new media, with digital, media practice, and also not only sort of making work in it, but now showing work in it, right? So what are some kind of new findings or expansions that you see both on a maybe personal level, but also artistic level? If you can share a little bit about that. Yeah. Maybe we can start from Dawson again.
Yeah, I was gonna jump in. Yeah, I think working with 3D medium has been super exciting for me because of, obviously it's so much more like imaginative in a way. Coming from like a photography background, it's always been sort of about what you can recreate from the natural world. And I've always kind of wanted to push that. And I've always been interested a lot in like Photoshop and different like editing techniques and compositions where it kind of pushes the reality and kind of, kind of changes what was actually captured by the camera. And so I think that coming into 3D, it was really very like so much possibility. It was like you can literally do anything, and you can literally, it's more about like the limits of your learning and the limits of your skill. And I think it's super interesting to keep on learning as you go along, because it's something that is always evolving and something that's always new stuff is always being added and new developments are always being made. And I think that for me also, a lot of my work has sort of like elements of surrealism, but not super like overtly like a Dali painting or anything like that. So I think it's interesting for me to mix that like super imaginative, super speculative aspect of 3D with something more grounded and more like realism. So yeah, I would say that's my
That's
impact.
great. Yeah. You keep learning, right? And then it's almost like the journey of making the artwork become the research, right? So
Yeah,
that's wonderful. Yeah.
Dawson, it's interesting that you mentioned Dali and you start with photography, because it's worth mentioning that the photographer Halsman, the famous photographer who collaborated with Dali so much, his estate is very active now in bringing his Halsman's life, and in some cases the intersection with Dali, to the forefront in Web3 and the metaverse. So it might be worth taking a look if you want at some point. I'm happy to direct you towards it, but it's very cool.
Yeah, thank you, Marc, for that perspective. Yeah, it's
you.
really great. And then maybe we'll hear a little brief comment about that from Grace and Ming.
Yeah. So my major in college was actually interactive media. So we worked with a lot of like emerging medias, including like AR, VR, and 3D animation. So for me, like as Dawson mentioned, like the infinite potential of 3D is really exciting. Like before college, my background was more traditional painting, and like that is a lot of time and work. So when I realized you can just like download some 3D models and move them around and like throw some lights on it and it looks like a scene without all the painting, I was very excited by the potentials. But I do think like the challenge for me is like when you have so many tools available to you, sometimes it's really easy to become taken in by the allure of like the newness of the technology. But if you make things without substance, they feel very like cheap and kind of fake in a way. So I always try to even like with like new technology, choosing the right technology for the work, or like the right medium for the work, instead of just like wanting to make certain effects or like certain technical feats.
Totally. That's so important to bring up. I think, the richness comes from actually still, learning from history, right? Learning from even the other mediums, so that the like Grace said, the newness, the novelty, doesn't fade off, and then it become nothing, right? Rather, maybe become an entry point, but then it leads you to kind of even deeper consideration, which, I think your work really does a really good job on that. Thank you, Grace. And then Ming, let's hear a little bit from you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to see how the art and how we consume it is changing because of all this new software, both in AI through text and AI through imaging, and the changing 3D software and the accessibility of it. Because when I started photography, I was 13 at the time, and I started out in 35mm film initially. And at that time, a lot of people were telling me that that was the beginning of Instagram, and telling me that why would you want to go into an art craft that's going to be overridden by everybody else who could do it? And it was such a compelling question at that time, and I ended up even majoring in it because I feel like the more ubiquitous a technology is becoming and the more people are using it, it actually pushes people, just like how the development of photography pushed painters to move on to different art movements. And I feel like that exactly is happening right now. So every time there's a new technology, I find that while there's a bunch of people who want to create things, as Grace had mentioned, with the aspect of novelty and animations that just simply are pleasing to the eye, there's also a group of artists who focus more into the storytelling part to differentiate themselves. And every economic cycle, especially with right now with the big crypto winter, which is not the first crypto winter, and how we are touching these digital assets, I find that it weeds out these types of content creators who were just focused on the novelty aspect of it, and pushes artists who want to really tell a story to think about how to execute that more. So I think technology is not making man and artists lazy, as some people believe. I feel like pushing people to expand on storytelling more. It's there to help us as artists and storytellers, and that's what I'm very excited about with future projects as well.
That's really great. Yeah. And, looking kind of in a bigger frames as well. There is this kind of interesting continuity, right, with like how new technology also changes, influence back, right, kind of what painting is nowadays and what photography is nowadays. And I mean, it's completely reforming the film industry, for example, right, with virtual production, is kind of where a lot of things are happening right now, which connects right back to 3D. So, Marc, I'm just really happy that we got to highlight and showcase this really strong group of artists. And, of course, we weren't able to hear from all of the artists, but obviously all 8 artists' work, there's so much to dig into. I just want to kind of remind everybody, I see the comments coming in, right? People are really curious and appreciative of the sharing of the work. If you want to check out the Fu piece, and there's a good amount of moving image piece as well, we did put the ArtLabb's link on the comment section. So, definitely feel free to check out those work and access them as NFTs there as well. Marc, is there anything else you wanted to share with us a little bit about ArtLabb and maybe even your vision? And then I do have one last question for Sylvain, circling back. So, yeah.
No, I'm very excited about the fact that ArtLabb allows for the individual artist to take on power in ways where she or he may be able to not only build or create, but also to distribute and promote in ways that one might not have been able to do before the decentralized nature of blockchain came about. The fact is that, 5 years ago, it might have been very difficult for everybody in this room to have their artwork featured on a platform, to be promoted internationally, to have these types of discussions. But with the advent of Web3 and MV technology, it allows for the age of imagination to come to life, the power in the creator to be blossomed. So that's what I'm most excited about. And I look forward to seeing the evolution of everyone's artwork beyond here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marc, for that. I want to come to Sylvain and Karen. Lastly, tell us a little bit more, if both of you or one of you, also your vision, right? And then the type of, project and artwork that you're supporting in DSL, and as well as all of those portals, right, where we can connect to other projects. So can you share with all of the audience a little bit of about that?
I will let Karen share the project, but I would like to give you my feedback and what I've seen today. I'm really deeply emotionally shocked, because all what I've heard was about humanism. It was, we spoke of technology, but the way the works have done are very human. And I think this is the core of the challenge is to always have at the center of technology the humanism, and it's technology which serves art and not the contrary. So this is my first reaction, is I'm deeply, and I think that what you're doing, Liz, Marc, and Snow, with all the students, is absolutely incredible in the way you are molding types of artists who are capable to be very traditional in the way they look at things, but also they are capable to speak the language of that time. And I think this is, for me, something very important. To tell you the truth, I think this exhibition is a kind of historical exhibition, because in 5 years, 10 years, we'll be able to do it again. And I think that it would be very interesting to show, as in the future, what was the beginning of the use of all these new tools to make things happen, and especially things happen in the Web3. So I think that what you've done today is also part of history. And I look at it like that, and we are really, really deeply fortunate to be able to be part of this project. And I will let Karen, who is in charge of all the project, the digital project, have the last words. But for me, thank you again very much for giving us the chance to be part of such a project.
Thank you, Sylvain. We deeply appreciate you as well. Thank you.
Yes, no, I would like to say, and just to a short sentence, because after hearing all of you as also Snow since the beginning of this project, I think it's always an experience and it's always a discovery, and this is what we like also, is the fact that we can come back, see more and more of new works. What I also like is, and coming from a traditional art background, is the fact that there are collaboration between the artists that are together on the same platform, and to have this opportunity with you and with NYU, Liz, Marc also, it's great, and all the artists to sit together. I think it's historical, I would say, and also the fact that we're in different locations, but we can still meet up. I also find it very meditative. The more and more I come in this space, it's like a break of my day, and I don't know if you feel the same, all of you, but enjoying art, having great conversation, and I think this is what the Metaverse is also about. And I would just like to say that, of course, we're very thankful to have this project with you, Snow, and you direct it in such a way that is, it's incredible. And we have, of course, Pingshan Museum in Shenzhen that is connected. You also have now the Ukrainian pavilion that we have been actually showcased in a French National Museum last week. And we also showed the VR WSPark. So I mean, from what I think is interesting is also that you are not alone on this platform, and you have a visibility both physically and digitally. And people can see it in Shenzhen, can see it in Paris. And this is what art is about also, is to bridge these barriers and to be internationally visible and to interest the public. So thank you very, very much, and congratulations to all of the artists, really.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, and what lovely project that we're so happy to connect with. And those of you who are joining us online, and those of you who are in the Web3 place, definitely visit those other projects through our portals too, right? I love the fact that it's kind of a multi-dimensional portal where you can come to Washington Square Park, but then you can be in Ukraine next minute, Paris next minute, or Shenzhen, China. We are coming to the end of our talk today. Time went by so fast when we were having such a good time. But lastly, I just really wanted to quickly highlight some of the comments that's been coming in from our live audience joining us. So there's friends and fans of the artist, LLVX. Woo, go Grace! Thank you so much for being here. So I think Eugene is able to maybe highlight some of the comments. Thank you so much. Wonderful. And then we actually also have another artist in the show who is also a professor here at NYU SPS. Thank you so much for joining us. And then we're so glad to present your beautiful show. And she says, great concept, Dawson. So fellow supporters of each other. Thank you so much. And then many good other good comments. The next one, thank you. I wish I was there in VR to feel the biggest experience and very interesting in exhibiting and curating in VR. Oh, I'm really glad to hear that, right? I would tell you it's been a really interesting and at times challenging, right, experience doing, curating and exhibiting in VR. But if you have an interest, definitely try it. And we need more, right? We need more. So, and then other ones, congratulations to the artists, curators, and show organizers. Thank you so much. And there's still other more, but because of time, I wouldn't highlight all of them. But before we go, from being an organizer of WSPark and also a professor here at NYU Tisch, involving with the Metaverse project, I just want to give a sincere thank you to DSLCollection for your vision and for your support. It's so important, and I felt such a pleasure able to work with you. I want to thank Marc for offering your expertise and then really supporting the now generation artist and having this starting point, but also continuing, right, supporting them, supporting their practice this way. So thank you so much for that. And I also want to thank Liz for connecting, and the fact that we can be part of NYU Metaverse Collaborative, the beautiful Fifth Avenue show that you were able to put together, where I think all of the artists who were in New York were able to go and had a wonderful time, especially post-pandemic. And I want to thank Karen as well, always a great supporter and great friends, and can't do this project without you, as well as all of the artists, Dawson, Grace, Ming, and everybody else who is generous in sharing their work with us. Thank you for your good work, and we're here for you. We're your community, right? As well as shout out to all of the other artists, right, who might join our project in the future. And then lastly, thanks so much for my two wonderful assistant who's go through a lot of things with me. And so thank you for putting up with me, and thank you for ever being so patient with technology. And that's how we go anywhere. So big congratulations to all of you. And let's get back to the screen for everybody. Wonderful. If I can have a round of clap for everybody, for each other. Yeah, and that concludes it. So we hope to hear from everybody again. Thanks everybody for joining us as well today. Hope you have a really great, wonderful, blessed rest of the day. Bye.
Bonsoir. Au revoir.
再见。